Where does all this crap come from? The victim feminism, gay rights, invented statistics, rewritten history, the lies, the demands, all the rest of it. Where does it come from? For the first time in our history, Americans have to be fearful of what they say, what they write, and what they think. They have to be afraid of using the wrong word, a word denounced as offensive or insensitive or racist or sexist or homophobic. This is the nature of political correctness. We've seen other countries, particularly in this century, where this has been the case. And we've always regarded them with a mixture of pity and, to be truthful, some amusement, because it struck us as so strange that people would allow a situation to develop where they'd be afraid of the words they used. But now it's in this country. We have it primarily on college campuses, but it's spreading throughout the whole society. Where does it come from? We call it political correctness. The name originated as something of a joke, literally in a comic strip. And we still tend to think of it only half seriously. In fact, it's deadly serious. It's the greatest disease of our century. The disease that left millions of people dead in Europe and in Russia, China, and around the world. It's the disease of ideology. PC's not funny. PC is deadly serious. If we look at it analytically, if we look at it historically, we quickly find out exactly what it is. Political correctness is cultural Marxism. Marxism translated from economic into cultural terms. It's an effort that goes back not to the 60s and the hippies, but back to World War I. If we compare the basic tenets of political correctness with classic Marxism, the parallels are obvious. First, both are totalitarian ideologies. The totalitarian nature of political correctness is revealed nowhere more clearly than on a college campus, many of which at this point are small little ivy-covered North Koreas, where the student or faculty member who dares to cross any of the lines set up by the gender feminists or the homosexual rights activists or the local black or Hispanic groups or any of the other sainted victim groups that PC revolves around find themselves in judicial trouble. With the small legal system of the college, they face formal charges, some star-chambered proceeding, and punishment. That's a little look into the future that political correctness intends for the nation as a whole. All ideologies are totalitarian because the essence of an ideology is to take some philosophy, and say on the basis of this philosophy certain things must be true, such as, well, the whole history of our culture is the history of the oppression of women. Since reality contradicts that, reality has to be forbidden. It must become forbidden to acknowledge the reality of our history. People must be forced to live a lie, and since people are naturally reluctant to live a lie, they naturally use their ears and eyes to look out and say, wait a minute, this isn't true. I can see it isn't true. So now, the power of the state must be put behind the demand to live the lie. That's why ideology invariably creates a totalitarian state. The cultural Marxism of political correctness, like economic Marxism, has a single-factor explanation of history. Economic Marxism says that all history is determined by ownership of means of production. Cultural Marxism, or political correctness, says that all history is determined by power. Which groups, defined in terms of race, sex, etc., have power over which other groups? Nothing else matters. Just as in classic economic Marxism, certain people, workers and peasants, are good. Other people, the bankers and the wealthy capitalists, are evil. In the Marxism of political correctness, certain groups are good. Feminist women, only feminist women, non-feminist women don't exist. Then there's blacks, Hispanics, and homosexuals. These groups are determined to be victims and therefore automatically good regardless of what any of them do. Similarly, white males are determined automatically to be evil, thereby becoming the equivalent of the evil capitalist in economic Marxism. Now, where did all this start? Well, we can trace it back to the 1930s, to the Frankfurt University in Germany. The university was endowed with an institute, and it was originally supposed to be known as the Institute for Marxism. But the people behind it decided at the beginning that it wasn't a good idea to be openly identified as Marxists. So they changed the name to the Institute for Social Research. Out of this think tank came something that translated Marxism from economic into cultural terms, but by combining it with Freudism. That came to be called critical theory. Now, things like radical feminism, the women's study departments, the gay study departments, the black study departments, all these things are branches of critical theory. What the Frankfurt School essentially does is draw on both Marx and Freud in the 1930s to create this theory called critical theory. The term is ingenious because you're tempted to ask, what's the theory? The theory is to criticize. The theory is that the way to bring down Western culture and the capitalist order is not to lay down an alternative. They explicitly refused to do that. They said it couldn't be done since people couldn't imagine what a free society would look like as long as they lived under repression, even though their own idea of repression was to live under a capitalist economic order. So what critical theory is about is simply criticizing. It calls for the most destructive criticism possible in every way designed to bring the current order down. If you've ever asked anybody on the left about their core beliefs, or what they're in favor of, or who they support, and why they support that person, and received anything but a rational answer, along with a lot of foul language, then you know that critical theory is alive and well. And of course, when we hear from the feminists that the whole of society is just out to get women and so on, that kind of criticism is a derivative of critical theory. It's all coming out of the 1930s, not the 1960s. Now, this goes on and on. You keep having to learn new terminology, too. For example, back in the early 60s, we started using Negro instead of that other N-word. And then they were colored, and then they were black, and then Afro-American. And now they're African-Americans. But who knows how long that's going to last. In this day and age, you can't call yourself patriotic or Christian, or in some circles even a proud American, without being marginalized because of some insane politically correct pejorative label. America today is in the throes of the greatest and most dire transformation in its history. We are becoming an ideological state, a country with an official state ideology enforced by the power of the state. In hate crimes, we now have people serving jail sentences just for what someone decided they must have been thinking. Affirmative action is a part of it. The terror against anyone who dissents from political correctness on campus is a part of it. It's exactly what we've seen happen in Russia, in Germany, in Italy, in China, and now it's coming here. And we don't recognize it because we call it political correctness, and we laugh it off. Well, guess what? It's not funny. It's here, it's growing, and it will eventually destroy, as it seeks to destroy, everything that we've ever defined as our freedom and our culture. So the next time you're confronted with some politically correct bullshit, and your common sense kicks in and tells you, that's not true, and you can see that it's not true, then say so. Call it exactly what it is. A lie. The only rational alternative to political correctness is the truth. It's only common sense.